Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. Alright, today is the day after I unloaded the final pod yesterday, and I'm going to kind of take it a little bit easy today. Definitely going to try and stay out of the heat, but people have been asking me to go check out the Dr. Pepper Museum. And I figured since that's an indoor thing, and it should be air conditioned, it probably should be not too strenuous of a day. Now, I gotta admit, I am not a fan of Dr. Pepper. I've never liked it. But you know what? If Jordan can go to a watermelon festival hating watermelons, I guess I can go to a Dr. Pepper museum when I'm not a fan of Dr. Pepper. So let's go. So here it is, Dr. Pepper Museum. Let's go in and check this out. So even before you get in, they got this really cool old Dr. Pepper truck out here. Just kind of out right by the entrance here. So apparently this was an old shed that was built in the 40s, and somebody painted this sign on the side of it, and right before the museum was open, they destroyed the shed, but they decided to keep the sign, so they actually moved it to this location, and the sign is right here right now. So this is the old building where they actually used to do a lot of the bottling, and apparently it's been renovated a few times, and I guess there was an F5 tornado that came through here and damaged it in 1953. So they ended up renovating it, and this is what the building looks like now. Alright, so let's go in and see what's in there. So I guess we start off kind of with a history of fizzy water, because I guess it all starts with that. Apparently it goes all the way back to 400 BC with the idea that certain kinds of waters, in this case mineral waters, could cure disease. And apparently Hannibal used to feed his troops and his elephants bubbling water. Then we go to the more recent things like root beer and all that fun stuff. So it all started here in the old drugstores, which they've reproduced here. This is where you used to be able to get Dr. Pepper originally, when it was kind of billed as medicine, actually.
These days it's called Dr. Pepper, but back in the beginning, everyone just called it a Waco. I used to enjoy mixing different flavors together in different combinations. I decided that the best drink anyone could make would be the one that tasted like the drugstore smelled. You know, with all those flavors mixing in the air. For a few years, back in the 1880s, Waco was the only place in the world you could get a Dr. Pepper. Now you have to understand that Dr. Morrison was very excited about that drink. He's the one who first called it Dr. Pepper. It got so popular that the back room of the drugstore was turned into a small syrup manufacturing plant. We'd mix up the batch and send it out to other drugstores. It must have been about 1890 or 91 when Dr. Morrison and some other investors started a new company to bottle Dr. Pepper and a few other soft drinks. They called it the Artesian Manufacturing and Bottling Company because of the famous artesian wells here in Waco. I went to work there for a year or so as the first superintendent of bottling. In fact, they're still bottling over at the corner of 5th and Jackson, just a short walk from my office at Barron's Drug Company.
Some vintage bottles and advertising. I'm guessing that was once a clock or something, I don't know. Some additional kind of cool advertising. No question there, that one's a clock. And interesting, the same three numbers that were on the other thing, 2, 4, and 10, are highlighted here. I guess we're going to figure out what that means. That's obviously significant somehow. Perhaps I should do some reading, huh? Alright, so this tells a little bit of the story. Apparently, this guy here started becoming really fascinated with like old Dr. Pepper bottles and was actually, when they were excavating old junkyards from the 1800s, would go there and try and find some of these old bottles. And apparently he was an active member of something called the 1024 Dr. Pepper Collectors Club. So that's obviously what that's about. Check out some of these old bottles. I guess these came out of the dump. Alright, so this is cool. This is a 1930s era bottle washer. This is when they would recycle all the bottles and use them over and over again. So the bottles would go in here, they'd go through the bottom here. I guess they probably came from this way. Were washed, they came up here, were dumped upside down so the water could drain out. And apparently this machine was kind of revolutionary because it could be operated by one person and it just required a 1.5 horsepower motor to keep the thing going. Here's what it looks like inside. So yeah, bottles start off here, they go around, they're washed in here, dumped upside down to drain, and then they come back out again. Looks like they cleaned them on the outside as well as on the inside. You just think you'd want them sterile inside, but I guess I can understand how you'd want it cleaned on the outside too. Now, according to the sign, these came in 4, 8, or 16 wide per channel. This thing could do anywhere from 12 to 120 bottles a minute. This is one of the four bottle washers because you got 1, 2, 3, 4 channels. But here's an even larger one. This one looks like this is one of the 12 bottle washers, I think. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. No, that was a 16 bottle washer. From 1912. So this is one of the old wells that they used to get the water for all the process. And I guess in the 1920s they had to cap this because the city of Waco ordered all open wells to be capped. And then over the years, with all the construction and stuff going on here, they lost where this well was. They knew it was on the property somewhere, but they couldn't find it. And then one day they were doing some renovation and actually broke through the cap on the top of it and found it. There's still water in there. It's still a live well. It's kind of gross, so I don't think I'd want to drink anything coming out of there. So these are some of the bottles used for Dr. Pepper and its other products through the years. You know, going from the 1800s to the early 1920s, 1930s, 1980s, 1990s, up to modern times where we go to like plastic. Gotta wonder if the soda in those things is worth drinking. They asked where the word soda came from. Well, it was because it was soda water in there, and I guess when the pressure built up in the bottle, when you opened it up, it made a pop sound. So that was how they came up with the name Soda Pop. Gosh, even I'm learning something here. Some old, very, very old bottles. 1875. This is back when it was like a lot of you know, snake oil salesmen would be producing their own medicine. A hand cork inserter there, because in those days everything was corked. Yep, that's definitely a big part of the history. And some more vintage advertising, obviously World War II era. (1968 and 1969). (1976) bicentennial themed calendar with Dr. Pepper. Sorry about the shadows and the reflection, but you know, that's what happens. Now 7-Up, I like 7-Up. The Uncola. Definitely some 60s feel here. 1943 vintage calendar slash artwork. There it is again. So during World War II, when all the men were off at war, Dr. Pepper used to hire the wives, the mothers, the sisters of their male employees and have them do the work, and they were called the Pepperettes. All right. Some more vintage bottles from the Empire Beverages Company. Never even heard of that. Me and the Bees lemonade. Prickly pear, ginger, and iced tea. And some classic bottles of Sip Sparkling Organics. Gotta wonder if the liquid in those is any good anymore. And some vintage Coke bottles. That's for celebrating the 100-year anniversary, 1907-2007. And the 75th anniversary, which I guess was 1982. Old vintage Ford truck, even with the hand crank to start it up. All made out of wood up here. Wonder how this thing would hold up in a crash test. Probably not very well. I don't even see seat belts in there. May not be huge into Dr. Pepper, but I like all the vintage signs. Those are cool. They're everywhere here. And a little bit more contemporary advertising. I remember the I'm a Pepper ad campaign. It's a good one. Obligatory thumbnail photo. So this is some of the equipment that they use to come up with the different flavors. There was a lot of chemistry involved in all this. So that bottom sign there provides a little bit more understanding of what that was. Apparently you were supposed to drink Dr. Pepper at 10, 2, and 4. And here's another sign that kind of says the same thing. Drink a bite to eat at 10, 2, and 4. Dr. Pepper. So yeah, that's what that is. So I guess my initial assumption about it having something to do with a clock was right, even though it wasn't actually a clock. And some old vintage masks that you used to be able to get. Davy Crockett, Chief Joseph, Geronimo, Charles Edward Kingford Smith, Australian pilot. First trans-Pacific flight in 1928. So this is something that was produced, I guess, called the Freckle Eater, which was billed as some sort of medicinal cure-all, kind of a snake oil kind of thing. They claimed at the time that it was safe to use, but later on chemists looked into it and found out it was loaded with mercury, which is really, really bad stuff. Some kind of cool Dr. Pepper serving trays. Some kind of cool novelty items. Apparently this room was once the vault of the Dr. Pepper company, and so you can see some of the original brickwork in here and the brickwork behind the walls. It's kind of cool. So this is kind of an automated system demonstrating the process of bottling 7-Up. Bottling machine comes out capped, works its way up the conveyor belts, I guess, and is ultimately packed in the crates for shipping. Yeah, this clearly isn't a real one. It's I don't see anything coming out of here, and probably just the same ones going around and around and around. Got a real chemistry set going here, bubbling beakers and everything. I don't know if I'd want to drink anything coming out of there though. I guess Big Red is a product also of the Dr. Pepper company. Wouldn't surprise me, they all kind of own everybody right now. Kind of a big railroad setup here. Don't have anything running today, but it looks still pretty cool. There's that 10, 2, and 4 again. A delivery wagon. Known as the beverage wagon, I guess, circa 1910. Sure didn't come with a flat screen TV though. For all the fans of model railroading, you can get your own Dr. Pepper trains. Some old classic toys, bicycles, mini pedal car for Dr. Pepper. I had a wagon like this when I was a kid. It wasn't an RC Cola, but it was looked very similar to that. Another vintage delivery truck. And another hand crank. Model K truck, late 1910s. There's one right there. Got 7-Up bottles from around the world. That's even a golf club with a 7-Up bottle as a putter. And of course, with admission, you get a free 10-ounce Dr. Pepper. A lot of people seem interested in that. I'm going to actually do it just because I'm getting one for free, but you know what, I'll try and choke it down. So when I got to the front of the line, they said I could pick whatever flavor I wanted for my free drink, and since I'm not a Dr. Pepper fan, and since one of the options was 7-Up, and I'm more in tune with that, that's what I went with. I'm good 7-Up. So that's all I have for the Dr. Pepper Museum. I gotta admit, even not being a fan of Dr. Pepper, this was still a fun tour to go through. And so, yeah, I'd recommend doing this. This was a lot of fun. So thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night. So yes, this is the Magnolia silos. We'll hit that some other point. The Google Maps image had this place packed. It doesn't look as bad as it was then, but we'll hit that at some point.